That's right. Welcome in, welcome back to what is the long-term impact on Notre Dame of the latest Riley Leonard injury? Live from Florida edition of the Always Irish Show. As always, thank you for being here. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Notifications on that way you alerted every time a new episode drops. I know you don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar Always Irish or at Always Irish Inc. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want it. You can get it if you don't want to see my face. I certainly don't blame you for that. Patreon.com/alwaysirish. Former captain, leading tackler, by the way, Mike Goolsby and myself breaking it all down. Thanks to everybody who's over there. We got some good stuff planned and some other stuff in the works. All right. I've had some time to let the Riley Leonard out for probably all of spring news settle, sink in a little bit, give it a little bit more thought, let the immediacy of that reaction die down. And now I'm starting to think about the impact of this moving forward and what that could look like for Notre Dame, what it could look like for Freeman, what it looks like for this offense, these quarterbacks. And I think this is a very important, tricky discussion. So when I talk about the long-term impact, here's the first thing I think about. This could shape this quarterback room as far as who's leaving, who's staying, what that pecking order's like. We mentioned in the video we did right when the news broke, the other three quarterbacks here are going to get a lot more opportunities and juicy good ones the rest of spring in the blue and gold game, all of that. It's a big opportunity for these other three quarterbacks. Really, it's a good time to remind people that I've been saying for the first time I can remember in my life, I wanted to see more and could see upside in all four quarterbacks in the room. It's a darn good thing because look where we're at. Look where we're at. So it's a good thing I feel better about the depth in that room than I have in the past 30 years, or we'd really be up a creek. So the first thing I think is this gives Kenny Minchie a chance to show what he could do on a bigger stage with more big-time reps, getting more attention, Angeli, whatever. CJ, it's a big opportunity for those guys. Even if Riley Leonard was healthy, there was a feeling that whatever happened this spring was going to indicate who maybe stayed. Does anybody leave? Sees the writing on the wall. I'm getting buried on the depth chart. What does this do to the timing of all those decisions with Riley Leonard out of that room? Are you feeling me? Buckner had his bags packed for Alabama before the blue and gold game started, and he played like a guy who had his bags packed before the blue and game started last year. So that's a window where if a guy doesn't feel he's getting a shot or whatever, see the writing on the wall right after that blue and gold game is a good time to go ahead for greener pastures. Does this prolong that process, keep everybody in the fold because the pecking order's artificially messed up because of this injury? That's something to think about. That's something to think about. You only got to look back 1 year to see what this looks like when a guy sees the writing on the wall, knows he's not the guy, and then it heads out. Does this change that timing? I don't know. But it's an interesting dynamic. Here's the second part of this. This is a part of it I have no answer for, and neither do you. Something Goolsby brought up the other day on Patreon in response to this situation. The coach's trust. The coach's trust. Obviously, no, it's not Riley Leonard's fault he has these injuries or whatever. You could argue it's Notre Dame's fault for jump-starting it, rolling him up on accident last year, right? This isn't a knock on the kid. It's just a fact. Availability is your biggest feature in college football. And now we're not even near a situation where a bunch of big, angry, fast guys want to hurt Notre Dame's quarterback. And we already have 2 surgeries in the books. We're 6 months away from real football. How does the staff process this? That, I think, is the biggest part of this moving forward when you're looking at long-term impact. August camp ramping up. Does Freeman and Gino and Denbrock, are they going to look at this as no big deal, clean it up in the offseason? Riley Leonard's going to be good to go for August, doesn't interrupt any of our pecking order plans. If he's healthy, we want him to be the guy. That's how we're going to run that, as if these two surgeries didn't happen or whatever. And is that going to be the plan if we enter August and Leonard's back to health? Or is there a thought of, this is uncomfortable, we don't know if we could count on Riley Leonard to be healthy throughout the year because we weren't able to even do it in the offseason? Do they think that, and that alters the way they put together August's camp and competition, rep distribution? A feeling of, okay, Riley's the starter, but we're getting the backup a lot more snaps than we normally would in a regular August because we don't know if we could trust that this health situation. That, to me, is a big deal. And I don't know the right answer to this. I don't know how Freeman's going to process this information, and I don't know the right way to either. If he has a clean bill of health through these surgeries and goes into August, are you full on with your original plan? Like Riley Leonard had no injury at all, and it's just we want him to be the starter, and that's what we're doing? Or in the back of that staff's mind, do they feel like they got to get the other guys ready because they can't trust this? And if they do go down that path, what sort of message does that send to Riley Leonard? I don't know. How does that come off? I don't know. It's not a knock on the guy, but injuries are injuries. And if you pile up a couple surgeries when we're not even playing football, I'm talking real football with people that want to hurt you, man. We ain't even near that. We've had 2 surgeries. That's, I think, the big thing here. So you have 2 dual tracks as far as the impact of this long term. Number one is, does this slow play any decisions one of these backups might make right after spring if they're unsure of their spot in the pecking order? Does this change that Buckner type timing? Because all of the playing time and the rep distribution's messed up. So that's number one. And then number 2, entering August, what is the trust level this offensive staff has in Riley Leonard's health? Do they adjust the August camp plan to account for this? And if so, how? Man, nothing's ever easy with Notre Dame. Nothing's ever straightforward with Notre Dame. It's always something. And then when that something's done, it's the next something. Nothing's ever straightforward, but this is just a rough dynamic to be in. And it's going to be interesting to see how everybody navigates it and the staff navigates it. I would just love to know if Denbrock and Freeman behind the scenes are going, man, this is making me nervous. I don't know if I could trust this for a full year, especially with the guy who's good with his legs. And that's a big part of his game. He's a bigger guy. He could take a beating and get right back up. But this is different than a drop back passer who doesn't bring one of his key features being taking off and lowering his head and running with the ball. That's a part of the way he plays, is a part of this equation too. And if you dial back the running part for safety, then you're not getting all the Riley Leonard features that we wanted to get. It's just Notre Dame finds itself in another complicated spot. So this is going to be a lot to navigate. I wonder if those Notre Dame coaches think, oh, this will no big deal. We'll clean this up and we're good to go for August. Or if they're saying, how do we make a good backup contingency plan to have a guy fully ready because we might need it? And we might need it more than one game. I don't know. So we're going to get some of those answers when we get into August and we see what it looks like in the next camp. But this is really interesting. Maybe you could argue this works out in Notre Dame's benefit if the way spring's being artificially operated because your presumed starters out. Maybe you could argue this benefits Notre Dame if this keeps all those quarterbacks in the fold in a way you didn't have that dynamic with Buckner last year. And then Riley Leonard comes into August and he's fully healthy and there's no problems. Maybe you could argue Notre Dame's ahead times 2. Riley Leonard's back and he's healthy and there doesn't seem to be any issues. And because of the disruption to the spring depth chart, you're able to keep all those quarterbacks and you don't have a guy trying to leave. Maybe you could argue it ends up benefiting Notre Dame full circle. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Nothing's easy in Notre Dame land. It's always gray area, never black and white. Let me know what you think.